The man in the middle for Ohio State is coming back. This time, it's for real. These are snap judgments. It's a Woody Wednesday. That's Bill Landis. I am Austin Ward. And the update on Ty-Leek Williams, who was available on Saturday, is that now he's expected to play against Iowa Saturday, 3:30 on CBS.
I believe this one.
Okay.
Right? I believe the last one.
We took the okie doke.
Yeah, but I think this one feels real. We did see Ty-Leek walking off the practice field. He didn't appear to be favoring anything. Looked like he had practice. They were on turf, so he wasn't like covered in dirt or anything. But he looked like he had practice. So I am thinking Ohio State will get him back in the middle of that defensive line on Saturday against Iowa. It's obviously a huge deal for football reasons. But Ryan Day was talking about some stuff that I hadn't really thought of about Ty-Leek being out from the communication standpoint. I think the energy too. Like Ty-Leek plays with a lot of energy that I think is infectious or contagious. Whichever way you want to go on that one, I guess.
Same.
Both are true. But his ability to understand formations and kind of get people sort of aligned on what might be coming at the defense on a particular play is just not something I had considered without him in the lineup. And I think will obviously be a huge deal this week against Iowa. So there's a lot of reasons why it's very important to get that guy back.
I think the leadership part for him is, I don't know, at least for myself, probably overlooked too much with Ty-Leek Williams. He was pretty outspoken publicly and on social media during the return of all these veterans. He was one of the first ones to make that decision public for himself that the Buckeyes were going to be reloading a clip.
I was going to say, he was the first one, right?
Yeah. Other than Cody Simon, who I don't believe wanted to publicly reload any clips.
He doesn't speak in such terms.
Yeah, but that started the process. And then you even we thought Jack Sawyer was coming back. Ty-Leek Williams, I believe. I have to go back and double check, but those were the first couple. And they were both setting the tone in a way that I think Jack tends to get more credit for than anybody else. But Ty-Leek was right there with him no matter what. No matter what the actual timeline was, Ty-Leek was early in it, decided to come back. When you watch a pregame, when you watch Ohio State's sideline, when you watch the Rushmen, I think Ty-Leek Williams has a handshake, a dance, a celebration with everybody that is on that unit with him. So I think he is one of the most overlooked parts of the veteran leadership corps for Ohio State. That's one thing. That's an intangible. Mm-hmm. Ryan Day did talk about that after practice tonight. But I think even on the field, clearly you're talking about one of the best defensive tackles in the Big Ten, if not America. When we have, nitpicked Ohio State's defensive success over the last couple of weeks, it should not be overlooked that Ty-Leek Williams is not part of that. Is it good, bad, indifferent that Ohio State hasn't been able to play at quite the same level, even though they're still the number one scoring defense in the country? That would be expected because Ty-Leek is playing at such a very high level. And what he does to blocking schemes, breaking them down, what that means for the linebackers behind them, is very critical. And if you're getting ready for an Iowa rushing attack and a physical offensive line, the timing couldn't be better. I'm sure Ohio State's looking at this the same way they did. Hey, made it. Now Donovan Jackson's back when the games get tougher. Now Ty-Leek Williams comes back for an opponent that they really need him for. They've managed this stuff pretty well.
He's their best defensive lineman. Would you agree with that?
I think he proved that in his absence.
I think so too. And the thing that he does really well, and Ty Hamilton does it well too, but it's I mentioned this on Kings of Columbus earlier on Wednesday. All Jim Knowles talked about last year was how good Ohio State's defensive tackles were at making tackles. And Ty-Leek was the leader among that group of just the ball carrier comes to him, don't worry about who's behind me because I'm bringing this guy down. And that's important every week, but it is especially important this week going up against Caleb Johnson, who he is dangerous when he can get through that first line of defense and then try to make your linebackers and safeties miss a tackle or two, and then all of a sudden a run you thought was going to be stopped for 2 yards is 45 yards out of the house. So if there was an eye toward this game to hold Ty-Leek back last week, I totally get it. I was a little frustrated with him not playing when he was listed as available, but it's probably not worth getting frustrated about that anymore. It's kind of just how Ohio State handles the injury report business, and that's fine, I suppose. Other teams do it too. Other teams are far worse about it than Ohio State.
Is that right?
Kyle Whittingham at Utah is the worst. Yeah, way worse.
Does the Big 12 mandate it the same way as?
I don't think so. He doesn't, and James Franklin too. These people just don't talk about injuries unless they're long-term injuries. Whatever, it's fine. It's not really important. Ty-Leek is playing this week.
I've never cared about it.
I know.
I'm very laid back when it comes to Ohio State injuries, and I always have that.
Famously so.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know. I did talk to Jack Sawyer, and he was available after practice. That man, though, is walking around looking like late November Tommy Eichenberg. He's got the big, both of his hands were taped up. He had a full brace on his right arm. He just said, the game is physical and violent.
It's going J.J. Watt mode.
Well, maybe that would have been a better example instead of Tommy Eichenberg.
Tommy no thumbs.
Go straight to J.J. Watt. But that's the kind of gear that he had on. But I don't mean to raise any alarm bells, but we are starting to get to this point of the year. They went on the road. They played a Big Ten game. They played a very good, a competitive opponent. Grade it however you want. They had Big Ten caliber athletes. There's going to be some wear and tear. This is the time of year where it's going to start to show up. So getting Ty-Leek Williams back, and then dealing through whatever upper body stuff is going on with Jack Sawyer. Again, it is not to say look for him on Saturday morning. He practiced. He's not, I don't think, going to be on the availability report as doubtful or anything like that. But it's just something to keep in mind, because as you look at this stretch, playing Iowa with them trying to run the football, and then taking a trip out to Oregon after that, you're not going to be doing that at 100% for a full season, or even right now in October.
It's why we talk so much about depth in the offseason, right? So Jack wouldn't have talked to us, I don't think, if there was anything to be super worried about there. And I think he would have to be in a hospital bed somewhere to not play a game for Ohio State at this point in his career. So I'm not worried about it. Who did look very spry was Will Howard when he sprinted off the field to go handle his Wednesday
He's
night
got his win
business.
back.
Yeah, he does, apparently. I'm trying to think of anything else that popped from people walking off the field. I guess the only one we were wondering about was Ty-Leek Williams, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this team is still, again, knock on wood, pretty healthy outside of the bumps and bruises that are going to come when you're in the Big Ten, and Ohio State is now. Game number 2 in the Big Ten Saturday against Iowa. I'm still continuing to be impressed with Devin Brown, with the way he's managing, playing, responding in this number 2 role, in the backup role. Obviously, coming in cold, he said, he was pretty stiff. The having to go in his legs, he wasn't ready. It wasn't like he had just finished up warm-ups and you go out there and you take the first drive. That was late in the second quarter, right before halftime, on short notice. Even with the timeout, didn't have a ton of time to really get warmed up, throw the football too much on the sideline, goes in, responds. Travion picks up a blitz. He hits Jeremiah Smith. We know what happened there. But Devin Brown talking about that and the way that he's handling his reps, of course he expected to be a starting quarterback for Ohio State this year. And that would be a difficult thing for most people to deal with. But he seems to still have a great attitude. He still seems to have a very high level of confidence in himself. And that paid off in a really key situation for Ohio State on Saturday.
Definitely a lot of confidence in himself still. And I think it's important to him to be a contributor in the room, whatever that looks like, right? He was talking about how close everyone is in the quarterback room and how they kind of help each other. I would imagine Will Howard in particular, not feel the pressures all the time of what it is to be Ohio State's quarterback. Chillax is actually the word that he used. And he seems like the kind of guy that would bring that energy to the room, right? Just based off the times we've gotten to talk to him. So I know there are a lot of people who want to see Julian Sayin get those backup reps, and I'm probably one of those people too, if I'm being honest. But it was still cool to see him go out there and execute the play and get the touchdown. He did say, when in doubt, throw it to 4, which is not a bad way to go about your business. But I think Devin feels like he is preparing better this year, even as the backup, and that he thought that moment to put him in the game, 1, and then to call a pass play, 2, was a reflection of some trust this staff has in him and trust that he feels like he has earned. So it's good for him.
I would not have been surprised at all if, given the situation in the game, what is it? It's third down, clock's running down. If Ohio State's 20-7 sounds fine.
Sure.
But Chip Kelly, Ryan Day, they did not feel that way. They knew that they had confidence that Devin Brown could go execute that play, and Devin Brown had confidence in himself to do so. I think that's not nothing. And when we've seen drives in the second half, later in games, even when Devin Brown got back out there in the fourth quarter against Michigan State, it wasn't amazing. And I know that's prompted a lot of this conversation about Julian Sayin, but this was a high leverage snap, and Devin Brown met the moment. So if you're wondering why you're going, it's not just because Devin Brown is a more veteran guy. He appears to be more physically ready and seems to have he's got more reps in situations like that than Julian Sayin to this point. Maybe if that you get into situations in, I don't know, playing Purdue or later in the year, Northwestern, and you need to have somebody you're looking for the future, then you do that with Julian Sayin instead of Devin Brown. But I still have a hard time believing that in a truly meaningful situation that Ohio State would go anywhere other than the 33.
I think it makes sense for the moment for him to still be the emergency guy. Yeah, and he's a veteran. He has played some. Why, I guess, exposed Julian Sayin to something perhaps he's not quite ready for yet. I guess I understand that.
Yeah. All right. What else did you learn on a Wednesday night in the Woody?
We've talked about how much we've enjoyed watching Seth McLaughlin play and the energy that he plays with, and he called it antics that he gets up to on the field, whether that's waving the guys when they're running away for a touchdown or the one play, I think it was against Western Michigan, where he got up to the second level, ran somebody over, and then he didn't quite flex to his own sideline, but he looked at the sideline and was like, "You see that?" And so I asked him about it, and he said this is the most fun he's had playing football since he was in high school, that he is not typically a guy who does those kinds of things on the field. And I don't know if that's just because
he played for Nick
Saban and you're not allowed to have fun at Alabama or what, but it is interesting to me that side of him has come out here at Ohio State. And I think, too, a really high level of play. I probably can't say this definitively because I didn't go back and watch every single snap that Seth played at Alabama. And maybe he wouldn't admit it because there's a lot of season left, but I would think he's probably playing his best football right now. And he does seem, I don't know, a little freed up, I guess. And it's not like this is a pressure cooker program too, right? It's not like it's all that different from Alabama, but he was a guy who was under a lot of scrutiny there and probably felt like he was in some way responsible for the way that Alabama's season ended, even if that might be a little off base or very off base. But he's kind of, I don't know, it just feels to me like he's put it all behind him and he's playing with a clear mind and he's playing really well. And the guys around him, I think, are playing better because he's there. So I don't think we can say enough just how impactful that addition has been with all the shine that Caleb Downs rightly gets and Will Howard rightly gets and Quinshon Judkins and all those guys. Seth McLaughlin has been a major, major addition to this team. I might even go as far as to say he's been perhaps the biggest addition to this team thus far, given how important, given how important shoring up the offensive line was for this year. I just think he's had a really big hand in making that group play well.
It's a difficult competition.
They're all good. They're all awesome. I'm not, if you're going to tell me it's one of the other four, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to fight anybody on it.
I mean, it's hard.
And then one of them's a quarterback, which is the
one's a quarterback.
Position. Yeah, I get it.
Is an elite running back.
And one's the best safety in college football. But besides that.
Well, it's hard. I know you want to give him credit for that. Mm-hmm. And it's well-deserved. But given what we've talked about with the need at center and a veteran presence and stabilizing and the fact that Ohio State was trying to play catch-up there after losing Luke Whippler, and even when Luke Whippler went into the lineup, they were behind for several years. And I think if you're looking for other explanations for why Ohio State's offensive line had maybe not lived up to the program standard or the exterior standard, not having a veteran presence in the middle, start there. I think that's it.
I think so. It's the experience of everything he's gone through that allows him, I think, to not get phased during games. And then if he's not phased, and I think everyone else is probably pretty relaxed. They have not faced a ton of adversity yet. I'm sure they'll face some this week because I was good. They'll definitely face some on the road at Oregon next week. So those tests will come, and that'll be a better tell of where exactly the group is. But I think he's unlocked some stuff for them schematically in the run game with his ability to move, his ability to climb to the second level, recognize plays. It's all around the center play has been really good. And it's not, I'm not even trying to dog Carson Hinson when I say that, because as we've said before, he was put in a really tough spot. But it really could not have worked out any better that Seth McLaughlin was available for Ohio State at the time that they needed him, in my opinion.
The last two guys off the practice field for Ohio State, Lathan Ransom, Caleb Downs.
They're good.
Caleb Downs also stopped and talked with the media after he was done getting in that extra work, and sort of talked about the way that those two are pushing each other. He said that they've quickly become brothers and that they have a lot of competition going on to see who can make more plays, who's getting to the football more, who's better at punching it out, which Caleb Downs said Lathan Ransom is doing that better right now, and he's trying to get some tips from him. Yeah. it's just fun to watch those two play together. Like you said, Caleb Dowds, he's just the best safety in America. Lathan's doing some of that stuff too. And
he's not too shabby himself.
The tandem that they have going is really, really something.
It's been fun to watch. Like it's what you hope to see probably when they added Caleb Downs. You knew Lathan Ransom was going to be good. When Lathan's been healthy, he's been a very impactful player for this defense. But the two of them together, it is a little something different. And I like that they're competitive with each other too, right? It's like two guys who are that talented, constantly trying to one-up each other and make themselves like the best possible version they can be of very talented players. Like there's no shock, I guess, that seems like a pretty comforting position for Jim Knowles as he's trying to figure out how all the pieces fit together here.
I like the way that Caleb put it. He sat down and I asked if that was, because he doesn't need a breakout game. He is already very well known. I want to be careful with the words there. I said, is that the best you've played at Ohio State? And he said, well, that's the most put together game that he's had. That's an interesting way to phrase it. And I really liked it.
Yeah, that's like just wait kind of like you thought that was good. Wait till you see what I do later in the year kind of vibes. No, I like that too. It definitely was, right? And it's not even, I think statistically it definitely was, but just you felt his presence out there at a time too where I thought Ohio State's defense needed it a little bit, like just trying to kind of get its bearings against what Michigan State was doing. And then here comes Caleb Downs flying up the field and make a couple tackles and just like, we're good.
He's good. He's going to have to be good on Saturday against Iowa. A team that's going to come in, be physical, trying to run the football at him. So Lathan Ransom, Caleb Downs, Ty-Leek Williams, a healthy, not going to miss a game, Jack Sawyer. All those guys, critical to watch in Big Ten game number two for Ohio State. That'll do it for a Woody Wednesday. These have been Snap Judgments. Appreciate you all joining us. That's Bill Landis. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you next time.